If you guys are new, make sure you drop a sub because 158 of you are new and only 14 of you have seen my videos before. So if you like the videos, please drop a sub. It only takes 2 seconds and I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Alright everybody, we're back. I'm Volante. Today we're recapping day 2 of the New Orleans Saints NFL draft. So, without further ado, let's get straight into this. And up first, we got Isaiah Foskey. So, Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame, 6'5", 264. Again, using NFL.com, their prospect page as my source. From what I've watched on Isaiah Foskey after the fact, I've noticed that he's a good edge rusher that could on day one definitely be a good rotational guy. Um, a good rotational guy to kind of, I guess, mix up versatility with Carl Granderson on the edge. I think that will probably be his role going into day one. He's never really had any injury issues, and that's something you got to talk about whenever it comes to players drafted by the Saints is injury issues, unfortunately. Let me take a look at his combine results here. And something I noticed, for a guy his size, he's really fast and really strong. He's a very versatile edge rusher that could really bring the violence to the trenches, or he could just outrun you. And it's something that the Saints really don't look into as much. It's a very Saints pick, if that makes sense. It's a very Saints pick, definitely. He gives me very reminiscent vibes of a younger Cameron Jordan, and I feel like that's what they went for with this. Like I said, really fast. He's really fast for an edge rusher his size. Like I said, really strong. And Isaiah Foskey was mocked in the first round sometimes. So let's look at his player bio here. So he was a top 200 recruit when he signed with Notre Dame. He played 4 games off the bench in 2019. So, not expected to play much probably. And he became a rotational guy for 2020, where he had 20 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 4.5 sacks. That kind of reminds me of Trey Hendrickson. In what year was it? 2019, I think it was, or where he had like 5 sacks and was in the rotation. You know, he was rotated in and out. Kind of reminds me, his production in 2020 reminds me of what Trey Hendrickson was back when, I believe it was Cam Jordan, and I can't remember who the other person was on the other edge. But I don't know. I'll have to remember it. It'll probably come to my head later. But it gives me Trey Hendrickson vibes. Production wise in 2020 for Foskey. So 2021, Foskey took over as the primary rusher, 12.5 tackles for loss, and had started 13 games. I think that's all the games. He tied for 10th in the FBS with 11 sacks and had 6 forced fumbles. Second team All-American in 2022. Finalist for the Ted Hendricks Award as nation's top defensive end. That is honestly like we mentioned before with Brian Brzee, the production didn't jump off the page for Brian Brzee, but Isaiah Foskey is definitely there. You see that. You see the production he had. And despite being an independent, he's played hard teams. He's played against some great tackles, some great teams, elite teams like Syracuse last year in their good run, and can't remember who he played. I was literally watching the film yesterday. It was like a top 6 team, I think. Can't remember. I'm just waking up as well, so this is kind of off the dome, I guess you could say. But 14 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, and 45 tackles in 12 starts. And he blocked punts. He blocked a couple of punts that year. So he opted out of the team's bowl game, which he could have definitely upped his stock by playing that, but could have very well ruined everything with an injury. Smart move. I'm going to take a look at his strengths. And again, starting potential as a 4-3 defensive end, that is the scheme the Saints run. 4-3 is 1,000% how the Saints like to do it. But again, I haven't read this yet, and I can already tell one of the weaknesses is going to be the lack of hand placement, I guess you could say, or hand placement or readiness. But yeah, strengths. He's always looking to make a play. We see that. His numbers definitely are up there. His foot agility to slip through crevices and attack gaps, which should make him a great run stopper and even a sneaky get to the QB guy. Something that the Saints have very well seen out of people like Caden Ellis, Carl Granderson even. Eyes quickly process best pathway to pursue and tackle. Impressive recovery talent against run blockers, which is great because, again, you're getting the best of both worlds with an elite pass rusher and a great run block and a great run stopper. So he's got long arm technique that helps to post and then pivot the edge as a rusher. Flashes making of an effect ghost move counter to dip underneath the blocker. He's just very versatile, basically, is the whole strengths. The weaknesses, basically what I've seen out of this is that he's very easy to coach up. This is probably a lot of these are the easiest things that you could probably coach out of him. So, the build is long, but linear and lacks base width. Inconsistent anchor depth and shed quickness. Rushes into first contact without having hand set, like I said earlier. Something you see out of him is that he's a little late sometimes, and that is something that he could probably get coached out of him before training camp, honestly. Gets outside shoulder covered and loses his contained duties. Again, with the mobile QBs that the Saints have had trouble with containing over the past few years. Something that, you could probably coach out of them. We don't know if that's going to work, but that is a major weakness. Short strides and tight hips diminish effectiveness at the top of the rush. Could use better violence in hands as rusher. And again, those two kind of are in the same group. Not much regroup and counter when his rush stalls out. Yeah, so basically, I wouldn't call him a one-trick pony, but I would say he gets very frustrated with not, if he doesn't win his blocking, if he doesn't win his battle, he gets very frustrated, and kind of is thrown out of the play. It's kind of eliminated. NFL comparison, Yannick Ngakoue. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. And personnel for an NFC team said he's a really productive rusher and he's still learning how to do it. So I think his upside is really high. We don't know who said that. We don't know. But whoever it be, they're right. He's got a really high upside and a downside that could be very well coached out of him. So, on to our third round pick, Kendre Miller. And I forgot to mention Isaiah Foskey. I absolutely love that pick. That was a pick I loved in the moment. Now, when I was talking about it, when I was watching the draft, I said Darnell Washington, Josh Downs, Josh Downs, or who was I thinking? Darnell Washington, Josh Downs, or Adabore. Something like that. Something along those lines. I don't remember. I completely forgot about Isaiah Foskey, and when I heard the name, I loved it. Because I know how good of a player he is, and truly love it. Anyway, on to Kendre Miller. This is something I didn't expect. When Kendre Miller came, it was, for me, Darnell Washington, still Josh Downs too, I think at that point. Josh Downs was still available. I was like, you gotta go with tight end or receiver. Running back, I mean, like I said, previous video, I'm pretty sure I've said, you don't know what Kamara's situation's like. You could use a running back to be behind Jamal Williams, but at the very least, you got a good special teamer here. So, let's take a look at his bio. And something I like about him that, again, I haven't seen yet, is that he's got really good burst speed, but he lacks, I guess, he doesn't know when to hit that burst, when to turn the jets on. He's got a really great vision, and maybe that's because he had a great, he's always had great blocks set for him, but he's always had great vision. He's got great burst speed, and he reminds me of Kamara the way he bounces off a tackle sometimes. Anyway, so we're going to skip to high school. Earned a scholarship from TCU Horned Frogs, made an impact as a true freshman, starting 1 of 9 appearances for 54 attempts, 388 yards, and 7.2 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Led the team with 7 rushing scores in 2021 with 83 attempts, 623 yards, 7.5 average, and had 12 carries, 117 yards, and 9.8 average, 1 receiving touchdown in 10 games with 3 starts. Miller, breakout year with the junior, had 1,400 rushing yards, 6.2 per carry, along with 225 carries, and that was 8th in the entire country with 17 rushing touchdowns in his 14 starts, missing the national championship game due to injury. Something I did just look up on OTAs, minicamp. He probably won't be there. He's working with a knee injury and probably won't be available until the start of training camp, which isn't the end of the world. But I don't hate this pick either. I just think you could have went something different, something more needed, and you still had Devon Kane, or no, not Devon Kane. You still had running backs like I think Devon Kane was still available. Yeah, you still had Devon Kane. You had Chase Brown. You had you have who else? Roshan Johnson from Texas. Have Israel Abanaconda, someone that Saints probably really like, honestly. And You could have went with them in the later rounds and got, tight end, wide receiver. I'm pretty sure Josh Downs was still available at 71. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Josh Downs was still available at 71. Jalen Hylett, Cedric Tillman. You could have went Darnell Washington. You could have went guard. You could have went anything there. Running back was probably not the right pick, but it's a good pick. It's not something I hate. And in the moment, I was like, you could have went something else. But here, his strengths: he is above average size for an NFL back. Reminds me a lot of Mark Ingram the way he runs angry. Consistently productive running the ball. Steps to the line are measured and controlled. Able to make easy changes of direction in the box. Runs with adequate vision and maintains space from defenders. Like I said, he is a great find the gap and in there running back. Surprising agility for balance and being tight hipped. Leg strength to carry tackles for additional yardage. Him and Kamara, if they worked out together in the offseason, they would have a field day. Because him and Kamara are the exact same when it comes to that. He runs upright with noticeable hip tightness, takes a step too long to transition into burst gear. Like I mentioned, I like his burst. I just think he is too late to the step. Needs to lower pads and run behind him. He is a really big back, and he is an angry runner. But add to that angry runner game and just lower that head, lower the shoulder, lower everything. You could probably gain additional yards from that. Struggles to make crisp cuts as an outside runner. Doesn't show enough trust in block development and doesn't search for Jesus Christ. Doesn't search for much work in pass protection. And again, that's probably something the Saints didn't draft him for. You don't need this guy to block. He's not a good blocker. You don't need him to block. Probably won't be involved in any blocking plays. That's what Jamal's for. Jamal is a good blocker. Alvin is a decent blocker. But again, you have probably a good special teamer out of him. And if Kamara gets suspended, you got a good backup. So, all in all, it's a good pick, but I honestly wish that they would have waited till the later rounds to take him. Because I feel like that's something you could have addressed in the 5th round with anybody. Anyway, so these two were our day 2 draft picks. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you drop a like and please subscribe. It means the world. Only takes 2 seconds. And without further ado, I'll see you guys later. Peace.